Hello, people, and, well, algorithms and anything else that might be watching. Any aliens that might be getting this broadcast a couple years from now, this model's probably not available anymore, or at least it's different colors. Anyway, different opening just for today, just for that one right there. Just want to throw this out here today. I'm going to be looking at this. This right here is the Bestech circuit. I've had this one for a little while now. First impressions I have given out a couple of times. My first impression is this is a good little knife. The blade shape, it is very classic, very elegant in its shape, and that it's relatively simple yet functional in just about every aspect. In that sense, again, really nice. Quick off the bat, you can see it's a Bestech. Flipper action running on bearings with G10 that's been milled and contoured. Deep carry pocket clip, which is always appreciated, and this one doesn't have flat screws, but it's got quite a bit of overhead room for hems to go through. A little bit of jimping on the back, coated blade steel K110, if you can see that there, or I like to call it clean D2. One of the benefits, K110 is the Bolorudholm version of D2. They are well known for having good, clean steel and tight specs on their steel, just in case there's a little bit of... But that might even be what I was just about to talk about, and that is that D2 is not corrosion, it's not stain resistant very much at all. Very little corrosion resistance. I have been using it, so you're going to see little bits on the... let's see if I can even get that to focus. It might be a little too close. Anyway, you should be able to see that. So, yeah, good little knife. It's very basic in its shape, and I mean that in the best of ways, and that there's nothing really that's not there. It folds up right tight, pretty much within the profile of the handle. There's very little sticking out. There's just a little bit to get a grab a hold of, and a relatively small flipper tab. And that being said, the flipper tab is the way to quick open. This is low cutout, and the hole isn't positioned very well for a flick at all. And even with a thumb, you have to really see if I'll even be able to do it on camera. This is because it's not really meant to, but nope, I don't think I will. Nope. But however, quick action, flipper, and outstanding, smooth. Easy action, little bit of a long step. If you didn't see that, I'll come back to it. Right there. That's how far you got to go before it engages the lock bar. A little bit further than I'd like. I'd like to have that be engaged already so that I don't have to go just a little bit farther or move my thumb. Action is smooth, has been right out of the box. This has not been pulled apart and cleaned. So this has seen lots of use and no adjustment yet. So that's still in the break-in, has not had the break-in cleaning, so you can expect smooth action from it. Again, you need to really go out. You can pinch this out for smooth one-handed action that's slow. People get scared by the flipper action. If people don't like that you want to be able to use your knife one-handed, then so be it. Usually I like to use it one-handed because I'm holding something and I need to get a knife out and use it and then put it back. I don't like to have to, okay, can you hold this while I get my knife? Not my thing. But there are a lot of people who don't like that quick action. I like it because it makes it super easy, right? Again, that shelf is probably my worst complaint. But if you do need to go slow, you can roll it with that thumb hole, or with that thumb hole cutout right there. Outstanding little knife as far as that goes. Those first impressions out of the way, let's get to some size comparisons. First off, to get a couple right out of the way, we'll go with the Kershaw Blur. This is the M4 model. So you can see it is very close, if but just a little tiny bit smaller than the Kershaw Blur. I'll go ahead and line up the pivot so you can see right there. Though length is very similar, and grind height is actually in favor of the Bestech here. Just a little bit more here. We have not just any leak, but a random leak. As you can see there, blade length again on the leak coming in right around similar lengths, right around that 3 inches. Oh, and I may have forgot to get that official overall length, 7.5 inches. Blade length, 3.25 inches. Full width of 1 inch, 0.13 or 0.2, approximately an eighth of an inch on the blade stock, and the claimed weight of 3.52 ounces, which you can see right here. We've got a little bit longer than 3.25 on this, on the blur, so it definitely matches up there. Right at 3 for the leak, which matches up there. Handles are similar. You can see for the in between. Now for the a couple of others here, just to get through something to give you an idea of one size here. We've got the old Rat 2 in D2. Give you a good quick look at that, just to give you another bit of a comparison to go with it. The Spyderco Para 3. This is the Spy 27 version. As you can see, Para 3 runs really similar in dimensions, but with smaller blade length, cutting length, and all that stuff. If you are at 3 inches or under, you live in a locale, this Bestech is not going to suit you. That is for sure. And if you're liking the handle dimensions, again, the Para 3 is one of the premier knives I would recommend in this price point for that sort of thing. If you were to be looking for another one that might be a little bit cheaper than the Para 3, well, let me tell you, I would say go look at my review of the Pilar 3. Another one here for single comparisons. The Honey Badger Warren Cleaver in D2, the medium with the choil. I preferred the choil myself because, quite honestly, this is a nice choil and it works up really good. So, and it fits very nicely in comparison to the Bestech. It has a similar length, blade length, handle style, different blade shape. Very similar in price. I believe this is actually, the Honey Badger is actually just a little bit more expensive. Both outstanding knives in this particular comparison. Though the Honey Badger might be just a wee bit more iconic. One more just to get a little bit in here. We've got a Wee Knives or NAFS Co. Banter. Definitely smaller than that. See, what is another one? If you need to see here, this is a Kershaw Knockout. Definitely smaller than that. And one more sandwich here, just to get to the Civivi Elementum and the Civivi Ortis. Yeah, that's just never going to work. Ortis does not like to play nicely when it's way up there. So as you can see, the probably the most direct competitor directly to the circuit is going to be this Ortis. Elementum's a little bit smaller. Doesn't have it. The Ortis is much closer on the size. And with the 9CR18 version G10 scales, it's going to be very close in price. Difference essentially going to be D2 blade shape and all that stuff. I'm actually going to leave these two right here for me because I want to take a look at these two, kind of point out some of the differences, or more importantly, the similarities and what I like. One, very simple in their design. The handle shape, very curved, very square, but both of them a little bit of a drop at the back, so your hand to follow the natural curve of the hand, as well as a forward choil. Contoured, curved. Bestech is a little bit thicker, but not much. It surrounds the liner instead of sits on top like the Civivi. Very similar in dimensions, and I would say very similar in intended use. Just to go with that bit of comparison. Now on to the standalone. Oh, for those of you who wanted to see, if you want to see my other one, do take a look if you want to look at some of the stuff. The CRKT Pilar 3 in D2. It's easy to tell by the metal back spacer. Amazing knife ergonomically. There is very few knives out there right now that I would say are ergonomically better than the Pilar 3. The closest thing I have would be either the Honey Badger or, quite honestly, a ergonomically known masterpiece in the Para 3. Bestech circuit does not take the masterpiece state in ergonomics, but it does have pretty good. It is, if you're back here, you get full purchase on the knife. There's a little bit of that tuck right there, so it does kind of get right into the pad of your palm. Get full grip. Everything else on it, you can still get, you get that sort of offset choil that seems to be just off a little bit. Gives you the perfect little place to choke up if you need to. Finger the blade to get up high. If you sideways, so you can pick a sliver. If you're going to be doing scoring work, it allows you to get just the edge of your finger in there so that you can wrap around without too much danger. As long as you're not going to be pushing and trying to push that in there while you're that point in while you're choking up, you should be able to stay off the sharpened part. Again, works the same in the pinch grip. It's a light pinch grip, so this is going to be for light stuff. It's not really suited for a heavy duty pinch grip and a lot of cutting. It is meant to be in the full thumb on top. With that long straight edge, that's really nice. You can, if you need to get, like I said, if you need to get some tip work, you can without too much trouble. It's really meant for lighter tip work, especially on there, or if you need to get down on the tip to get that into particular areas, right? For such a basic, basic handle style, it does an outstanding job of getting that done. It's very elegant and it's just minimal, very low on the curves. It's contoured. It's quite a nice little knife. The design is simplistic, and I appreciate that. It's simplistic in a minimalist sense, right? There's not going to be bells and whistles on this, okay? This is not the kind of knife, much like this Wee Whisper, you're going to see fancy titanium and other funky stuff in there. By the way, I'm kind of working on getting this polish on there. I've almost got that mirror. It's getting closer. There's certain things you're not going to see. It's not going to be fancied up. This is not a $200 knife. This is a relatively inexpensive but not cheap knife. This is a knife that you're going to be looking at close to $70 for. Well put together, running on bearings, G10 handle, which is nice and solid and very, very resistant to changes across temperatures. It's deep carry clip. It comes in a lot of colors. I personally like this slate blue with the gray coated blade. It's a D10 blade or D2 blade or K110. So it is not corrosion resistant, so having a little bit of coating will help. It does have a nice color aesthetic. The simplistic goes with me. I like the aesthetics, the simple design aesthetic of this knife. I appreciate. Right? I can appreciate the simplicity of this knife. No doubt about it. The design is meant to be simple down to some of its more basic features where you can tell the designer's new. This was not going to be flipped out. This is meant to slow roll if you need to. If you want it quick, you deploy it with the flipper. Right? It's almost, because of that long shelf before it comes down, it's almost easier to get it with your pointer finger and just go at it, much like an assisted knife. So it has a design that keeps it low profile while being non-aggressive, I guess, in its thing. It's got an aesthetic that lets you know it's a knife and a tool, right? And for those who know, it's definitely there. It's clean in its aesthetics, right? A little bit of polish there, a little one there. It again, I'll say this: it is a lanyard hole that's chamfered. Just the, I'll see if I don't know if you can see that. There's just the tiniest little chamfering on that lip. Which for those, I am not someone who uses lanyards, but if I did, I'd want it chamfered. G10 can cut. Right, so there's that. This is a good knife. It's got inset liners. It's got some cutout there for there, but it has a stop pin that is in the liners. Those nested liners are nice. It's got right. I don't know if you can see that. I'll try to see if I can get the milling in there, but you may not be able to see it too well. But the liners are milled for weight reduction. The holes give a good grip. The milling gives a good grip, even when wet, or as Mr. Shabazz would say for the Vaseline factory folks. But yeah, it's a good aesthetic, and the mechanics honestly are hard to fault. This has had great action. I've had this for a couple months now. As I've gone through, I've gotten a lot of time with some of these knives as I've gotten to use them throughout my injury. For those of you who don't know, this video is coming out at a time just after approximately 3 to 4 months out, as I had a lower back injury that took me out for a couple months. So I've had some time to get used to these, as well as cut up boxes, do other things, other chores I normally wouldn't, that actually required a knife, that normally I wouldn't use a knife for or wouldn't be able to, but I needed to keep my garbage small and maintainable while I was on crutches. So the knives actually got a little bit more workout on cardboard and some other things than they normally would have, which helps me a lot in these reviews, and just and I'm glad I had them. Again, bearings. Bestech has really good engineering on their detent. Ooh, did you hear that? I tried to get it as close as I can. It's pretty sublime in its action. You can slow flick it, and it just lightly opens, right? You got to light switch it slow. If you try and push button, you can just barely do it, but that top of that blade starts to run right into your fingers. If you try and push button, you can't. You have to light switch just a little bit, even if it's a push button light switch where your finger moves. This one's designed to do that way, right? And you get great action. There is nothing wrong with the pinch action on this. In fact, if you need to do one hand and you can't do the flipper, very easy to pinch that and just let it drop. I'll show you that again. Very smooth. So the mechanics on this, absolutely good. And you know what? I think anyone who's looking at this knife and is thinking, you know, I want to buy that, they're going to agree. This is not someone who's buying a fancy knife. If you are buying, if you're like, this is not the kind of knife you're like, I don't know if I want this or a Wee Knives Arrakis, right? That's not what you're going to be shopping for. For those of you who don't know what a Wee Arrakis is, go ahead and look it up online or anywhere to one of your favorite retailers. It is an artistic knife that works and has a ton of detail in it, and is expensive because of it. Lots of fine detailed carving work in it is indeed expensive, and titanium that has been colored. So yeah, so this is something that I think people will expect. You get good utility. This will cut open a box. This will cut open a letter. This will carve wood. This will cut wax. This will do all of those kind of household chores you need, as well as craft chores, right? It'll do fine on light fibers, things like string or fabric. It comes to an extraordinarily thin edge for D2, as well as a nearly full flat grind. If you can see that right there, there's a little bit right up there, right? You can see. But otherwise, that's almost a full flat grind. While not super thin blade stock, is not super thick either. Pretty average on about 1/8 of an inch. Relatively robust tip given what it is, so you can really get it in there. I don't know, like I said, I don't know if that's going to show up quite as well, but we'll try. Relatively robust tip. Really nice. I'm impressed by this knife, and it's as I don't want to call it a beater knife, but it's the kind of thing that if I'm going on jeans or if I'm going on an extended trip, or something like that, and I want a general purpose knife, I don't want to carry a bunch, I would probably take a lightweight knife like the Para 3 or something along those lines. That's super lightweight for shorts, slack strength like that, and I would probably take this knife for just about anything else. This is a general purpose knife that, again, if I only had to have one or two and I was buying one or two and I didn't care about fancy and I wanted it for certain other things, this is a real contender. Quite honestly, if I'm looking at something that's contoured, I don't want something like that, and I'm looking in this price range, the natural competitor to me that I'm going to be looking at near $70 is going to be a D2 Honey Badger. And this, whether it be the drop point or the worn cleaver, because really it depends on your use case, which one of those you like more, is a far more natural competition when you're looking at knives to this Bestech. And quite honestly, I'm a fan of the worn cleaver. If I had the drop point, I would probably give it to the Bestech. But here's, I'll show you real quick. This is probably the easiest way to sum up what I like best about each knife. That is the Bestech carry profile. Super clean, super simple, super easy, deep carry. It'll fit in there, right? Elegant, clean, classy. Honey Badger's got a little bit more. It's a little bit thinner, a little bit easier on the hand. It's not quite as clean. It's got a little bit taller profile, but here's something. The fidget factor on the Honey Badger is by far and away better. And once again, just to I'm gonna try and see if this will even slightly illustrate just how that's interesting. The Honey Badger's actually right there with it. For whatever reason, the Honey Badger doesn't seem like it's quite as hard. We'll see how this works. A little bit, not, probably could use a cleaning. It's been broken in now. I could probably use a cleaning because it used to be about just it was. Yeah, the thing, the Bestech is cleaner, more elegant, and classier. The Honey Badger is more fidget friendly and slimmer in the pocket and in the hand. Other than that, they're close in price. Very good D2, K110, FRN versus G10. This would be, I think, the natural competition to the circuit. But we all know one thing, Honey Badger don't care. I would think that the drop point or something would be the natural competition to the Bestech circuit. Both price, performance, materials, and just kind of general use case look. That being said, I'm going to round this up. This is a good knife, you guys. This is worth the money. I've done a couple now. I gotta say, the $50 to $80 price point, I would actually put 55 because you go up to about 55. I would even go so far as actually $60 to $85. So we skip the $89.99s and all that sort of stuff. $50 to $85 is an extraordinarily competitive place to build a knife. I mean, really, if you want to start trying to drop a knife in that price range, and you're going to start having to figure out what you've got to do to make it great, you have some really, really hard, stiff competition in that arena. And again, it depends on what you want to do. That M4 ain't there, but right, depends on what you want to do. But you start getting into this price range, you guys, this is the bread and butter and meat and potatoes of the knife world. You start hitting that $70 to $80 range, and you've got super high quality. You've got enough margin for the makers to get some good money back on this, and still provide high quality. You get good steels, everything I showed you with the exception of the Kershaw, which is D2, or in this one, I believe this is 9CR18 and VG10 based. Damascus. Everything you saw on there is D2. or approximately, which has great wear resistance, not so great corrosion resistance, and decent toughness when properly heat treated. Again, you'll hear this several times. Steel is great. Heat treatment and geometry is more important. Bad D2, badly heat treated D2 will not wear any better than well heat treated 14C28N. 8CR13 MOV, if properly known its specs and properly heat treated to those specs, can do better than poorly heat treated D2. So again, steel is not the end all. There's a process to it, and that process needs to be done properly as well. So that's I'm going to start to wrap this up, you guys, because there's not much else to say. In general, good knife, right? Contoured, is comfortable. There's enough room for me. Again, I'm a large size glove across the palm. There's a little bit of room left on there. My finger length is a whole different story. But stubby little fat fingers, if you will. But I got plenty of room on here. I can get my finger up in there without too much danger or worry of rubbing. In fact, if you'll notice right there, I'm actually rubbing my finger along that front edge of that choil. There's no cut. So it's actually got a nice rounding to it that lets you put your finger right hard in there. And there's no, like, you can see the mark on my finger where it went. There's no cut. So even the sharpening on that choil is pretty nice. It might look like might be a little dangerous, but they kept it at a great angle. It's not fancy. The fanciest thing about this knife is all these little grip cutouts for the circuit motif that they're doing in the holes. That's the fanciest thing about that, and possibly the inset liners. But classic, absolutely. Classic drop point with a high grind, fantastic. With a nice belly and some flat, fantastic blade shape. One of the classics, and there's a reason for it. It does a lot of things well. They totally have a great little drop on the back with a finger cutout and the right tipping. It's not overly curved, but guess what? There's no hot spots. There's no hot spots on that. Everything's rounded or straight. That's pretty nice. It's a liner lock. It'll go forever. It's a nice bent clip. There's nothing overwhelming about this knife, and that's actually what's great about it, right? This is just a good knife. The knife folds up within its own profile pretty well if it's in your pocket. There's a little bit of a pocket pecker, so to speak, that is there to bang on your keys or anything else that might be in your pocket there. It might bang on your wallet or something, who knows? But it's not overly done, and there's a little bit of a ramp right there to make sure that you get your finger in the right position. There's very little on here that isn't useful. It's got full bits. Deep carry is actually deep carry. It goes out past the end. Man. Worst thing to say about this knife is I want to flick it with my finger. I don't want to use the tab all the time. This right here begs to just, but no such luck. That's the worst thing about this knife. I want it to be more fidget friendly, but part of it being so classy is that, like, this isn't going to, you pull this out of your pocket, it's going to look like a knife. If you're in a public setting, you can easily roll it out without causing any suspicion, and it looks like a normal knife. If you're in a place where you pull it out of your pocket and you only got one hand free, you can easily one hand it and drop that sucker shut. Right? So there's beauty to this knife in its elegance and simplicity. I absolutely highly recommend it. Deep carry clip. It's gonna have good edge retention. It's got good thin slicing capabilities. It comes in a lot of different colors. It's very, very, very classy and nondescript. And I hate to use that term because it makes it sound like I'm trying to say it, but it's not flashy in the best ways. It's just a good, simple, but elegant knife that does everything you need it to do and not a lot that you don't. There's only a couple things it doesn't do. One of the few things that I want it to do that it doesn't, and that's be flickable. It just doesn't. It is not. It's a roller. Other than that, great little knife, you guys. Highly recommended. $68. There are other knives in this price point that are definitely recommendable, but again, when you start getting to some of that stuff, it becomes a personal preference. Is this a good knife? Absolutely. If you're looking for this type of knife and you purchase this one, will you be disappointed? Probably not. I can't speak for you completely, but as you look at this knife and you're going through, it's like, you know what? I want something simple, easy, elegant, and classic like that. You won't be disappointed. This is well made, well executed, and there's no little gremlins waiting to catch you if you grab this knife. So with that being said, you guys, pick one up if you're already looking at it, pull the trigger. If you're not, and you just wanted to find out more about it, do a little more research, see what other people say. But I got to give this one a good, hearty recommendation. I'm going to be keeping it in my collection because it is so absolutely useful. It's a good utilitarian knife that you could buy. It's got good heat-treated D2, very comfortable handles, has bearings in it, so you know the action is going to be good. It's easily cleanable. You could essentially wash it out with a hose if you need to, or under a kitchen sink, and it will be relatively fine, though with the D2 I wouldn't recommend it. Everything else, man, in the damn nice category, this gets a damn nice rating. I actually like it. I really do enjoy this particular knife more than I thought I would. I liked the classics bit, but I have been pleasantly surprised at just how good this knife is without being overly flashy about it. That being said, guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. This is a good knife. The Bestech circuit, worth the money? Yes. In a competitive price point, it is going to be a personal choice. But if this is something you're looking at over the competition, I would say get it. You will not be disappointed. You could also get the competition too. But once again, this has been a dosage. Like, subscribe, and all that other cool algorithm stuff. Come sleep on it, come back in the morning, and do it again. Thank you.